an attempt to make money in real life in the free market, why do 70% of the businesses fail? There are many reasons, but there's one reason that is above all reasons you should look into. And it's the reason that not enough people talk about. You and other people participate in each industry in this exchange of money, assets, goods, services, labor, attention, if it's media on the internet, trust, which is very important, especially for B2B, and information, because information is valuable and costs money. In this exchange, you would expect, and capitalism expects, for most people to act rationally, to exchange in their favor. Capitalism is not zero-sum, this is why it works. You have an apple and I have a pear, and we each want the other one more, we exchange. Same thing with money. And everything in capitalism is these exchanges. And you expect people to be rational and everything to balance out. So one industry should not be better than the other because people are supposed to be rational. This is the main presumption of capitalism. But that's not how it is. And it's actually quite a shock when you realize how much it's not like this. When you realize that a tax consultant that consults the biggest companies in the world about how not to pay too much taxes, how to transfer money and assets between the departments of the company, of a multinational corporations, their entities in different countries with different tax laws. And this person receives something like $50,000 per hour of consulting. But of course it's worth it because the company save millions of expenses of taxes because of his consulting. So it's a mutually beneficial transaction. But most people really, when they grow up, they don't grow up with the stories of someone who is making $50,000 per hour in consulting. And this is a mistake because this is a real thing. It's in real life. There are such people, of course, a minority. But if you know that there are such people, you can aim high. And not aiming high enough is most people's main problem in being an entrepreneur. It's like there are two kinds of entrepreneurs. The dreamers who say, I'll make the next Google, the next Facebook. There's a lot of people who tell them, it's not like this, it's not easy, there's luck, there's timing. And the dreamers have like their correction in society. But all the people who I just want a very small business, I want to be free and get 1.5 times my current salary without needing to have a boss. I'll just be a freelancer. No one tells these people, just aim higher. It's doable. It's absolutely doable. And mostly because no one does it. Because, of course, if everyone aimed higher would no longer be a competitive advantage. But since not enough people do it, it is. So as most people don't know how to evaluate all of these exchanges that are going on, if you learn how to evaluate all of these resources, so the money, but also the attention and the trust, the information, the assets, if you learn how to evaluate and trade those and get them cheap, sell them expensive, and make some business model out of all of this, out of billions and billions of possible business models, if you manage to do this, you have a huge advantage because most people they don't know shit about this. Absolutely terrible because of bad education, nothing in upbringing really. For most people, financial culture is about how to negotiate a better salary maybe, how to save more money, how to invest if they have some money saved, how not to spend on stupid things they don't need. But this is not everything you need. You need to be able to evaluate. You need to look at a desk and say, okay, this desk costs $200 because the company that made it has spent this on research and development, this on resources, this on labor, this on taxes, this on transporting the desk to you if it was for free. Everything, you should be able to evaluate everything. This is the real world that we live in. And if you want to be able to get the opportunities that it gives you, because no one is a born entrepreneur or born day job worker. It depends on your character, of course, but also on the opportunities that the world presents. So if you want to to be able to get these opportunities and not fail, you need to learn to evaluate. On the internet, I have learned to evaluate everything, like each website, each domain name, but also each article, each word of content, each source of traffic, each visitor to a website. Everything can be given a money tag. And ideally, it should be. It should be. If you're making things for money, everything needs to have a cost, a benefit, some number attached to it. Even if you cannot measure it, you should try to guess it, because it's somewhere in some equation that will determine the success or failure of your business. The most basic thing about choosing an industry. There are supply and demand laws. So, for example, if the travel industry needs people, there will be open places for people to work as a waiter, as someone in a hotel reception, as a tour guide, and there will be some open positions for people to work and some people who would want to take these positions. And the equalization of the supply and demand where they meet of this really results in people's salaries and the conditions of their labor. That's basic economics. And this is the assumption that all industries are kind of equal to work at, or if you are much better in one industry, you need a huge education, like learning 10 years how to be a doctor, an MD, a surgeon, because you invested so much in education, in time and money, that you should get more back. So this is why doctors are paid well, at least in most countries. They should be paid well everywhere, of course, but not always the free market gets to this result, unfortunately. What happens is that you think that the effort is somehow proportional to the result. You study more, you work harder in education, you work harder in training, and you get a better result. But it doesn't happen this way. Not at all. I'm a living example that this is not true, because I am not exactly a hard worker. I like to explore, I like to do research, I like to test stuff, but once I have to do the same thing 3 times, I just get sick of it and outsource it to someone who works for me. So I'm not exactly the hard-working type, but I still make a lot of money. Why is this? Industry. But before industry, with supply and demand, you want to supply something that people would want, and not only people, companies. The real goal is in B2B services, because we as a company need a lot of things that no one provides, and we would pay really well for them if someone provides stuff like data, stuff like tools. Very different things that we need for our business are in high demand and low supply. With consumer products, you have maybe 100 different types of bubble gums that you can buy at the supermarket. There's a lot of supply. It's always supply somehow matches demand in the consumer market. But with B2B, often there is a lot of demand for something of low supply. And if you get there, this is where you earn really well as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, like in most cases. And how do you find these places where there's high demand, low supply? But it's not some big trend, like it's not blockchain in the blockchain boom and bust, or AI in the AI boom and maybe bust. We don't still know yet. It's very important that somehow put everything on a very sustainable foundation. There are no booms and busts, because then you cannot accumulate really value enough to become big and have economies of scale. It's very important that it's not boom and bust. It's not a trend. It's not the VR trend. It's not another trend, because trends are very popular and they attract a huge amount of suppliers. So that always in a trend, there will be a lot of supply. You need something mundane, something everyday, something boring to get into, and then find among all of these boring, non-trendy stuff, which is the one that really has low supply and a lot of demand. And there's a pattern to those industries, and we're gonna look at it now. But this is how you win big. There are almost infinite options for businesses, for business models, and it's very important that you choose wise. Aim high, say no a lot of times, and then when you find it, and it really feels like rolling the boulder downhill instead of uphill, then you double down. And how do you double down? You do it fast and you scale it as much as you can. As an entrepreneur, you have 2 main goals: to be happy and to be successful. But happiness shouldn't really come only from the things you do. because there are a lot of different things you can do. And a very tiny amount of them will result in you being very commercially successful. And a lot of them will fail because of bad idea or bad execution. With happiness, you can find a lot of different things that can make you happy. So happiness is actually the easiest part. Also, if you do something that makes you happy but doesn't really bring the money, then you have to stop doing it because you need money to live. So the happiness will be short-lived. You have to change. Of course, you will have learned something that makes you happy, you can adapt, but still the counterintuitive way that I suggest is to always start with the money, look what earns, and then adapt it to make you happy. This is not how most people do it. Most people who get in an industry because they like it, for example, they open a restaurant, they want to make people happy, but then it turns out that opening a restaurant is hard. Then they try to tweak it. They change the type of food, they change the menu, they change the setting, they try to improve it, they try to be unique, but it's still hard because it's a restaurant and restaurants are hard. So in the end, you start from happiness, but you turn out to be a struggling business with struggling employees because you cannot pay them enough. So they have to work long hours for not enough money. And in the end, it becomes a sink where happiness disappears, even though you started with the best intentions. So what's the opposite of that? What is the good model? The good model is to start with the money. And if you have more money than you need, you have amazing options like giving a lot of money and freedom to your employees or like completely giving back as in charity. But you have a lot of options. You have the long-term freedom.